Well, WWE continues its international tour this week, coming to us from Italy tonight, specifically in Bologna, Italy. We'll get into the happenings of SmackDown tonight. I'll also touch on my thoughts from Raw and some of the news this week. That and much more this week on Wrestling Brother Talks Smack. Well, welcome back to Wrestling Brother Talks Smack. I am your host, Jarvis Sam. If this is your first time joining, hit that like and subscribe button, hit the notification bell so that you can get updated each and every time I drop content on this channel. Also, let's keep the conversation going this week on my TikTok, on my Instagram, wherever you can find me. Wrestling Brother on TikTok. I am Wrestling Brother on Instagram. And if you didn't find me on my personal YouTube, it is Wrestling Brother on YouTube. Without further ado, let's get into this week's show. Well, let's kick it off with SmackDown. Well, I've been reporting on SmackDown most of this year. And, most of the shows have been mid to bad. Let's just call it a spade a spade. Last week we saw a show that was also pretty bad, but that hot crowd in Italy really made things feel more important than they were, made things feel better than what they actually were. Sometimes you got to take the small win. This week I feel was a little bit different. If this had been a 2 hour show, if this was just a 2 hour program instead of the 3 hours, I truly believe this is a show that we could say, hey, this was a good show. Because saying that it was 3 hours, only parts of the show actually drag. And we'll get into that when things have a purpose. So when you have King of the Ring and Queen of the Ring qualifying matches, these are matches that have stakes. Something is on the line and you feel like, hey, this has a purpose. So you're not just watching a fake fight for the sake of a fake fight. You're actually watching something that is going to carry out a bigger storyline down the road. And then you can tell stories within stories, which we saw on this show, which made it a better show. The show kicked off hot. I like when they kick off the show with something that's not just your cookie cutter adrenaline in my soul Cody Rhodes promo, or your Sami Zayn promo, or wrestler A, B, C, or D promo. They kicked it off with chaos as Gunther is just throwing chairs and he is livid. And we immediately know why he's livid. But of course, he's going to get on the mic and tell us why he's livid. And he doesn't get in the ring. He got on the announcer's desk and he spoke to the audience. And he talked about exactly why he was out there and why he's mad. Quite frankly, he was upset at the outcome of the match from Clash in Italy when his foot was under the rope, hanging outside of the ring apron, which the referee should have caught, and Cody Rhodes did not technically would have technically not won that match by a pinfall in that manner. So he's pretty much demanding that he gets what he wants. No sooner than he's out there and talking that talk, here comes Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes is just making his usual entrance, walking as slowly as he can. He's slapping hands. He's signing Funkos for the kids. He's kissing babies, being politician, all-American boy Cody Rhodes. He basically, agrees with Gunther and says, hey, in that you are right. They have some back and forth. And then here comes Sami Zayn. Right before they set up their return match, here comes Sami Zayn inserting himself into this. This was a really good promo. I talked about it last week. Gunther is a good promo. Of course, Cody Rhodes is a great promo. And then Sami Zayn is, if you were a Sami Zayn doubter up until I would say he joined the bloodline and really flourished, I can kind of understand where you might not have understood his value and everything. That guy makes lemonade out of has made lemonade out of lemons for most of his career, and he maximizes his minutes. Whatever WWE has given him, he has worked with it and made it work. I can't say enough about people like that maximize their minutes. Some people, not everybody is meant to be at the top of the card, right? Not everybody is meant to be the guy and all those things. Some people are meant to be in the Sami Zayn spot, right? Where you can just plug and play. If you put him in the mid card, he's going to flourish in the mid card. You give him a run as the United States champion, he can have banger after banger. You can throw him in the main events and he'll cook with that. You can put him in a tag team. You can put him in a faction. You can do whatever with Sami Zayn, and he makes it work. And inserting himself into this, it makes total sense. I've been saying for weeks, I would love to see a Cody Rhodes Sami Zayn feud properly done. I think the story has been there. This I'm the last real good guy, and you used to be this, and we're the same. I think it's really good. We know WWE has been doing a lot of stop and starts. What happened to Bailey with the split personality? Like, where the hell did that go? That was something that was, somewhat interesting. You kind of want to see where it went. And so there have been so many little things like that that have just, how many times have we seen Street Profits seeming like they're going to break up, and that doesn't happen. There's just been so much stop and start with WWE that you can't get too far invested into any storyline until you really see it get some legs under it. But looks like they're going to do something here. Looks like they're eventually going to have some sort of triple threat. But this was good. And, Sami Zayn said, hey, he came out there and he got a nice ovation for a change in Italy. Because he's almost been like this delusional character the past several weeks where he's talking about his ride or die Sami Zayn fans, and he's the last real good guy, yet he's getting booed out of the building. This was a nice change of pace because it made it seem like he kind of knew what he was talking about because he was getting cheered on some levels. Probably, I would say the cheers outweighed the boos in Bologna, Italy tonight. So, anyway, the best part of the promo is when Sami Zayn he talks about how he's never won the world heavyweight goal or world championship goal, but one thing he's familiar with is beating Gunther for gold. I thought that was great because if you remember, he did beat Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship a couple years back, and they pretty much ran the same match back the following year with Jey Uso winning the World Heavyweight title. But that's a story for a different day. This ends up being a brawl between the three. Later in the night, we get a match made official for June 19th, which is going to be the final 3-hour SmackDown. So we are just 2 SmackDowns away from 2-hour SmackDowns. You heard me right. Just 2 more SmackDowns. So if we get past next week is probably going to be the toughest one to get through. And then that following week, we're going to have a huge championship match between Gunther and Cody Rhodes, which, if I'm a betting man, Sami Zayn is going to interfere in that match, setting up a triple threat match down the road. Whether it'll be at Night of Champions or not, we don't know. So we know Sami Zayn is super over in Saudi Arabia, and Night of Champions will be in Saudi Arabia. Just throwing it out there, might be the proper place for this match. I mean, I'm not saying Sammy's going to win. I don't know. I wouldn't mind it. I don't see him being bold enough to do that because they have played it so safe over the past year and a half. They have played it super safe. So I don't see it, but this is probably where they're going to do the triple threat to get Sammy in front of that Saudi Arabia crowd in a huge championship match. The first hour of SmackDown was really good. I mean, the first hour was great. You had this segment with Cody, Gunther, and Sammy. Then you have Danhausen doing what he does with The Miz and all that. That was fine. Great to transition you into what's next, which was a women's Queen of the Ring qualifying matchup, Fatal 4-Way. The match was really good. The match was really good. It was Raquel Rodriguez, Bayley, JC Jane, and Kiana James. Kiana James was the final participant. They set this match up so well. Most of the participants, actually every participant in here in this match, is at least in a tag team. Raquel Rodriguez, she had Judgment Day stay in the back. You had JC Jane, she had Fatal Influence stay in the back. Kiana James allowed Julia to stay out there with her. And again, this was a really, really good match. Raquel Rodriguez got the win. I was actually pleasantly surprised with that. I thought they were going to give the win to JC Jane, which would have been good too. I think, you got to keep JC Jane and Fatal Influence hot. That would have been a way to do it. But I like how what we saw from Raquel Rodriguez kind of right before WrestleMania. I feel like they've cooled her off tremendously. But this is a way to kind of reestablish her. And I think this is ultimately going to lead into something with her and Liv. And this is going to be her way to kind of segue out of Judgment Day. And I think she can be a somewhat decent star outside of Judgment Day now. So I'm looking forward to this. The match was won, like, again, by Raquel Rodriguez. But the big story coming out of the match, which is crazy, the biggest story coming out of the match is Kiana James and Julia. Kiana was completely blaming Julia for this and completely berating her. And then they end up throwing hands, and Kiana James and Julia is no more. This obviously is going to lead to Julia, walking away from this as a baby face. She got a tremendous ovation in Italy. She has the roots in Italy. This was a perfect opportunity to do this. I just hope this means something in the future for Julia just as much as it's going to mean for Kiana James. I think ultimately Kiana James is going to be the bigger star. Kiana James has been in some high profile matches this year and has looked really good. She looked good in the Rumble. She looked good in the Money in the not Money in the Bank, the Elimination Chamber. She looked really, really good. So I think the sky is going to be the limit for Kiana James, especially walking out of this as the heel. It's always, I'm sorry, when teams split, when factions split, the one that goes heel typically is the one that becomes the bigger star, just because you can do some things. You typically, when you have these factions that break up, these tag teams that break up, you get so much heat on that heel coming out of that because you were in this beloved tag team for so long, or you were in this faction for so long, and how could you turn your back on your brother or your sister? So you typically get strong, strong, strong heat coming out of that. And then, I'm sorry, when there's a thin line between love and hate, when the crowd is hating you that much, they're gonna love you that much more when you become a baby face. So this is looking very solid for Kiana James coming out of this. So I'm looking forward to what's next for her. Hopefully they have plans for Julia as well. I'll be honest, the show kind of took a turn for the worse in hour two. Hour two, we got Rhea coming out with, she's banged up. Her knee is banged up following, the physicality that she's been experiencing and all this stuff that she's got going on with, from the match with Jade. And then she was in a tag team match the night before, probably. And, they've been having the 6 woman matches and stuff. So Rhea's been taking a beating, but really selling the injuries from the match from Clash in Italy with Jade. Charlotte Flair comes out. She basically says, "Hey, I've had your back just because I have respect for you, but I'm in the Queen of the Ring tournament, and once that's said and done, I look forward to facing off against you at SummerSlam." She's interrupted by Tiffany, the United States champion. Tiffany's like, "Hey, I know I'm the United States champion, but, I think I want that back in my life." Now, no sooner than that happens, you get a promo, or you get Jade Cargill coming out with the baddies saying, "Y'all sound stupid. I'm coming back for my title." So everybody's gunning for Rhea's championship. All of a sudden with the banged up knee. But they know they've got time because they're in the Queen of the Ring and SummerSlam, it's up basically. So, of course, this, alone, this probably could have been a decent promo, but I am not a fan because I think it's overdone when you have the promo and you have somebody addressing something and then this person comes out and then another person comes out. Now here come the heels, they come out, and now here comes Nick Aldis, here comes Adam Pearce. It's, oh, let's have a 6-man and blah 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 blah. Let's have a tag team match. And then the very next you go to commercial break and you come back and it's already in progress. And that, I absolutely hate that type of booking. And so that's what we got. It ended up being, Rhea couldn't compete, so it ended up being Charlotte teaming up with Tiffany, who they were opponents last year at WrestleMania. The promo battle that was very controversial. They went off script, and Charlotte Flair made the comment about Kaiser being in her DMs, and it just it was a hot mess. And now all of a sudden they're tagging just out of nowhere. All of a sudden she hates Jade more than she hates Tiffany. It's like, come on, make it make sense. Let if and in wrestling you're always going to get people that have beefed with each other tagging it's just the way it is with wrestling. But you can do it in a way, you have to slow build those things, not hot shot it in such a way. Now all of a sudden Charlotte Flair is allies with Rhea Ripley, and now she's cool. No, she doesn't hate Tiffany as much as she hates Jade, and you haven't even had a one-on-one match with Jade. How do you? It just, again, this is where the show began to go down. This is the match you could have definitely taken away. The segment you could have taken away. Another thing that could have been taken away. We got another match between Carmelo Hayes and Ricky Saints. If they're gonna do a best of 7 series, just call it that. Just call it that, because this is already match number 3, if I'm not mistaken. And Ricky Saints does win this one. You've got to find something else to do with Ricky Saints, but he can't be in a match with Melo every week unless you're really going to brand it as a best of 7 series. Royce Keys, his theme song says he takes everything he wants. He has been on the main roster since, what, 2 weeks before WrestleMania, because I think he debuted, then he won the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, and he's been a fixture on the programming ever since. What the hell is he taking? The closest thing to something he's taken is when he went out there and challenged Gunther for that championship opportunity against Cody. Outside of that, what the hell is he taking? Don't worry, I'll wait. What does Royce Keys actually take? Well, I'll tell you what he took tonight. He took an ass whooping and a loss to Talatanga. Of all the people on the roster, Royce Keys took a loss to Talatanga. It's clear that WWE wants to make something of Royce Keys, but it's unclear of what they want to make of him. He got a lot of TV time. He's always in front of the camera. There's always something going on. It's not always the most interesting or compelling thing on the show, but he's there. Ultimately, it looks like he's probably gonna be a fucking MFT. I don't know if I like that for him. I think the biggest mistake they've made with Royce Keys is making him a babyface. Not only did you make him a babyface, for weeks and weeks and weeks, the only time we saw him is with Stephanie McMahon on her podcast, where he's trying to talk about his upbringing and where he came from, and, almost trying to build a sympathetic story. It's very hard to build sympathy on a 300-pound, muscle-bound man. You also can't forget, and I know WWE's never going to actually say AEW, but they allude to people, they'll say, oh, they've wrestled all around the world or for other promotions and things like that. Royce Keys has been a successful professional wrestler for several years now. WWE didn't just bail him from the mean streets of Santa Alta, wherever he's from. He was in AEW as Powerhouse Hobbs for several years. Very successful wrestler. And now he's in WWE. WWE needed to bring him in as a heel. He could have been somebody's muscle. I would have liked to have seen Cody Rhodes turn heel and bring in Royce Keys as like his bodyguard and at least establish him in that way. And we know in these bodyguard angles, it's already setting up for like their first major feud when they have some sort of turn or a character development, it's going to be with that person who they were the bodyguard of. But instead, they bring him in like this. Then he wins the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. And I have thoughts on the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. People always kind of bury the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. Oh, it means nothing. Oh, it means nothing. And I won't say that it means absolutely nothing. It means that you're another year out before they actually do something with you, though. Because when you look at everybody that has won it, for the most part, they've either, you could feel that they had plans for them, or those plans just were maybe another year out. Jey Uso won it one year. You had Cesaro won it one year. Big Show won it one year. You kind of see the vision for it. Again, it doesn't mean anything huge is going to happen like very soon, but it's somebody that they have their eye on. Carmelo Hayes, like, it's always somebody that they have their eye on and could be a make or break thing for them. Baron Corbin, they had planned, like, he won it when he was the lone wolf. That character had a very protected run. One of the most protected finishers in all of wrestling for a while was the End of Days by Baron Corbin. They had plans for him. Things just spiraled, and they did weird gimmick changes where he was Constable Corbin, and now I guess he's, Danhausen's corpse now, and they're gonna bring him back. Well, I hope they bring back the Lone Wolf and protect that End of Days again. But anyway, he won the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, and he's had matches here and there. He won most of them. Then he got the really good match with Gunther a few weeks ago that set up Gunther versus Cody Rhodes that we got in Italy last week. There's potential there. Again, horrible decision making by WWE Creative to position him the way that they have. But we'll see where it goes. I guess he's going to eventually join the MFTs, and obviously at that point he'll be a heel. So we'll see what happens. The main event was the men's King of the Ring qualifying fatal four-way match. Trick Williams, Damian Priest, Braun Breaker, and Dominic Mysterio. Coming into this match, I know the overarching favorite is Braun Breaker, especially after he lost on Monday night to Seth Rollins. There were reports that maybe Braun was a little banged up. Maybe that's leading somewhere, but apparently he's fine. I guess he was just a little banged up. But coming out of that, there was reports that he may have been injured. Those have been debunked. He's fine. Back to the reality that Braun Breaker's probably going to be the one to win this match. And if not him, maybe the dark horse would have been Trick Williams. But let me tell you, neither one of those guys won this match. We got Damian Priest going over here who's going to... No. Dominic Mysterio picked up the win after a frog splash onto Damian Priest. Damian Priest was just there to take the pinfall. And so we're going to have Dominic Mysterio versus Oba Femi in the semifinals. I think Seth Rollins is going to win this tournament and move on to face Roman Reigns. They're going to keep Oba Femi away from Seth Rollins. So the finals is not going to be Seth versus Oba. It's going to be Seth versus Dom. Somehow, Oba Femi is going to lose that match. I don't know if it's going to be because of Judgment Day foolery and he gets counted out, or they piss him off and he gets DQ'd somehow, or if Brock Lesnar comes and interferes and costs him the match. Not sure how it's going to play out, but somehow Dominic Mysterio is going to win that match. Mark my words. He ain't gonna get a pinfall over Oba. He ain't gonna, no. It's gonna be well, if it is a pinfall, it's gonna be because Brock Lesnar technically beat Oba Femi. But it's gonna be something that ends up getting Oba out, and then we're gonna have Seth versus Dom in the finals. And Seth is gonna move on and face Roman Reigns for the World Heavyweight Championship at SummerSlam. That is my bold prediction. Again, SmackDown was one of the better SmackDowns I've seen over the past. When you factor in the crowd, you factor in matches that actually meant something, you factor in the storylines that advanced, you factor in a really good opening promo and an opening segment with Gunther just, being on a rampage. All those things equaled a decent show. Anybody that's completely shitting on this episode of SmackDown is not being fair, because compared to what the show has been, this was leaps and bounds ahead of that. Again, if this was a 2-hour show, this would have been more than fine. Let's talk about Raw. Raw, we also had two qualifying fatal four-way matches. One that was won by Io Sky. It was Io Sky, Lash Legend, Julia, and Roxanne Perez. Io Sky is probably the odds-on favorite to win this entire tournament, so of course she won this fatal four-way. And then Oba Femi, after his loss to Brock Lesnar at Clash in Italy, they had to, the very next night, they had to put him over and build him up strong. So he just tossed around Penta and the rest of the people that were in that match. I think it was Penta and Mello and Solo, and he was a man amongst boys in there, and he destroyed him, and he's moving on. We had a good, really good main event: Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker. I'm shocked that they gave this away on free television. It's a really good match. Seth Rollins picked up the win. I guess, it makes sense if he is going to be the ultimate winner of this King of the Ring. I know a lot of people thought, it was going to end up being Braun Breaker versus Oba, and then somehow Braun Breaker gets the win, and then it'd be Seth and Braun in the finals to kind of complete their trilogy. That's not the case. I really don't think that Seth Rollins is one of those guys that does not need all the wins to be relevant. To me, he could have lost that match and still won King of the Ring and been just fine. And to me, Braun Breaker needed one of those wins. If either he wins on Monday night or he wins tonight on SmackDown and moves on. But him, and of course, he didn't take the pinfall, so he didn't technically lose. When you have somebody that you're kind of trying to push as that, next top star, you got to keep that steam on them. Now, I don't know if they are looking to go in a completely different direction with him, if they've lost a little faith in Braun Breaker. Sometimes when you go out with injuries, the machine will lose a little faith in you, because they had him faced off against Trick Williams. Now, these are two, Trick Williams is a mega star in my opinion, but right now he's holding a mid-card title. And to me, Braun Breaker should be challenging for a World Heavyweight Championship. He was supposed to be in a Mega Mania match for a title. So I don't know if that bodes too well for Braun Breaker. And of course, we had the Bloodline acknowledgement segment where Jacob Fatu, following his loss in Tribal Combat to Roman Reigns, has to now acknowledge Roman Reigns and fall in line. And, it was not a it was very anticlimactic. It was just what I just told you is just what happened. Roman Reigns comes out with the Usos. They're like, hey, where's Jacob? They're like, he's late on his first day. Jacob comes out. He looks a little defeated. He basically said, I've been taking L's all my life. Basically saying he knows how to take an L, so it is what it is. He knew what he was getting himself into. He acknowledged Roman Reigns as his tribal chief, even got down on one knee and acknowledged him. Roman Reigns says, you don't understand this, but I do love you, and blah, 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 blah. They throw up the one, I think it was Jimmy Uso said, we the ones, and they threw up the ones, and it was what it was. I've got a lot of thoughts on the Bloodline that I'm gonna share in very short order. I hope they're setting up something big. But right now it's feeling like rinse and repeat, and I'm kind of cool on rinse and repeat. But yeah, this week, not a bad week for WWE programming at all. One of the better, more consistent weeks that they've had all year, to be quite honest with you. We had those Raw and SmackDowns before Mania that didn't even feel like we were on the road to WrestleMania. This was a decent week of programming. So let's see what happens. We definitely need it. We severely need it. Let's get into a couple news topics. So the tentative plans for WrestleMania 43 is to have Roman Reigns facing off against The Rock. I feel like we say this shit every year, so I'm going to take it with a grain of salt. But of all the places, of all the venues, with time just you've got to believe that if it isn't done by Mania 45, it ain't happening. The Saudis are going to throw an absorbent amount of money at Dwayne to come out of semi-retirement and have this match with Roman Reigns. And I can, as much as I'm optimistic or pessimistic about it, I could see that. I could see the number being right, WWE needing to make it happen. Maybe this is why we're getting all the bloodline stuff now. Maybe this is why we're rehashing the bloodline stuff now so that they can set that up. Now, they don't know that The Rock is 100% in. So they're also saying that the backup plan is to have it be Roman Reigns versus Oba Femi. So that also tells me that Oba Femi's not going to win King of the Ring, that they're going to do something else, and Oba's probably not going to challenge until. But then what happens if The Rock is on board? What then happens with Oba Femi? Maybe we know by Rumble. Well, I guess they're gonna definitely have to know by Rumble what Rock is gonna do. So then I guess maybe Oba wins the Royal Rumble and then challenges the other champion, because Oba's gotta, after this year, Oba has, like, you have to, he has a challenge for a title sooner than later. Really, he should be challenging at SummerSlam, but looks like he's probably going to have the third match with Brock at SummerSlam. Now, what are you going to do after SummerSlam? SummerSlam is like August 1st and 2nd. So you're going to have the whole rest of the year to try to do something interesting with Oba if you're not going to put him in the way of these championship matches. And this could all be a bunch of just bullshit that they leak to get people talking. And again, it all kind of tracks as well. So we'll see. This week, some photos of CM Punk leaked, and CM Punk was looking very, like, more in shape than he's ever looked in his life, to the point where people like, oh, he's must be doing steroids. And there are many times that you see people go away for injuries and they come back and they are absolutely just AJ Styles, Randy Orton. I think that, but I really think it's just a commitment to the gym. They're just literally, they want to come back and look impressive and be in better shape, and that's all these guys have to do. Just work out and eat. So why does it have to always be that? So we'll see. Ryback took to social media and says he, doesn't think it's that.